Hello guys, this video I'll show you how to create such feature as storytelling. It's the point of interest combined with the typewriter style UMG widget. So it is very expandable and it can be used both with the simple point of interest areas, or we can use it with our interactable objects. So when we are interacting with something, we can have the typewriter style of storytelling feature, and after some time I'll create the dialog system based on this type of widget. I hope you like what you saw at the demo, and I hope this feature will help you. So please enjoy and let's move on. Let's start with the typewriter feature, and we need to create the macro library because you don't know whether you need the specific type of macro in your other blueprints rather than we have in our typewriter UMG widget. So for this I have created the macro library folder, and as you can see I have two different macro libraries. The one is for blueprints, the other is for the UMG. We need to create the for each macro, but with the very specific difference. It will be for each with delay and break. Very combined macro. Also, make sure that you are creating the macro library with a specific type of entity, because if you create this macro but for the UObject, not UWidget type of entity, you can't use it in your UMG widgets. It's very important. So, to create the macro library, you need to search for blueprints category, then select blueprint macro library. After this, if you select actor, for instance, as I said earlier, the macros that you create with this type of parent entity you don't have the access from the UMG. So for UMG, you need to expand all classes category and search for widget. Then select widget component. I'm sorry, not widget component, but widget. It's right after the visual entity. So select widget and press select. Now we need to open our macro library. Here you can see that actually it's empty, but when you create the new one there will be the default macro. It also will be empty, so you need to rename it. It's for each loop with delay and break. We need for each loop with delay, so we can print every letter in our sentence with the specific period. Also, if we have very long message, you don't need to wait for it, you just need to click so we can have the full text displayed. But to stop iterating through all this text, we need the break. So when we have the inputs from our mouse, for instance, we need to break our loop and just show the whole text. So make sure that you have the following input and output variables: exec, array, wildcard, type array, delay, float, break, exec, and for outputs, loop body, exec type, array element, wildcard, single element, array index, integer, and completed, also the exec. These inputs and outputs are the same as we have for each loop with break, but the delay is our custom input. As you can see here, it's actually the copy-paste of the Unreal Engine's internal for each loop with break macro. You just need to open any blueprint, for instance, player controller, then search for each loop with break. Now double click, and as you can see, we have actually the same but with the different type of macro. Just copy paste these elements. Outputs and inputs won't copy, so for this I tell you to create the one you need here, then paste it to your macro, and now take a look where we need our wires to be connected. So local boolean variable here, also not and to this condition, make sure that you have the proper values. For initialization we have the false, so when we actually need to break, we need to switch it to true. Next, we need to add right after the increment loop counter the delay. So the logic is very simple. Every time we have the counter increased, we need to wait. Then we need to proceed it and have the wire connected to our branch node here. Also make sure to connect array for those nodes that are actually not connected. Here. Next, array index. It's from array index here. Complete condition. Right after we have false results in this condition branch. Loop body right after the sequence. And that's pretty much all. Take a look one more time. It's not complicated. So when we are done with this, we can continue. Let's start with interaction system interface. I created two kinds of function, add description widget and destroy description widget. For inputs, as you can see, I have POI, which goes for point of interest. It's the new kind of blueprint. Right now you don't have it. Just go to your content browser, under common folder. I have created POI folder. Do the same and create the class bp_POI. Just do this, it's the basic actor entity. Right now you don't need to add there something, just for the sake of having the proper reference. So our typewriter UMG widget can work both with point of interest blueprints and our interactable text, so we can write something into the field and the text will show on our typewriter widget. And right now it's delay between letters, so we can define the time for each letter to show. The advanced type of, I'd like to call this feature storytelling, I'll create also the delay between the paragraphs, so there won't be the very big amount of text, there only be some paragraphs after this. Right after we have one paragraph displayed, there will be delay and the other one paragraph will show. But that's the basic implementation, and for most users I think it will be enough. Actually, this type of feature will help us to create some narrative-based first-person adventure games. Also, we need these references to tell the proper entity to behave in the way they are intended to. So, whether we need to blend in or out with our camera, also to destroy the widget. And destroy description widget. As you can see, there is no input and output because you can interact only with one item at the moment, so just sending this will trigger the proper element we need. Now I have created the hot description widget. It's right here, GUI. It's called hot description. So actually it's the scroll box. Make sure it's set to be variable. Our size, position, anchor is on the bottom and the center. Also, as you can see, that order set to 1, so our background here, actually it's the border, simple border, won't be on our text. So our text can be visible. Also, let's scroll down. Here, as you can see, I have the checkbox always show scroll bar. It's up to you to decide whether you need it all the time. I'd like to have it. Also, I changed scroll bar thickness. And I think that's all for the scroll box. Yes. Now let's take a look. I also have the text here. It's the basic text, no rich text. But we can go with rich text too, to emphasize on proper words, but I don't think that this is necessary for this simple implementation feature. As you can see, I have auto wrap text, so my text won't be expanded right on the right side. It will be format in the proper way, just in the area. And that's pretty much all for the text. As for the background, it's the same size as my scroll box, at the same position, but I use this type of color settings to have a little bit transparent and I think pretty kind of background. Now let's take a look at our graph. Also make sure that the text grid is our scroll box and text body is our text element. Both are variables. And here it's the whole logic to handle the proper typewriter effect. That's all. All here, and it's beautiful. Let's take a look at variables we have. It's our POI, point of interest, type of blueprint. Make sure that it's exposed on spawn. The same for the interactable. And the same is for text. And the same for delay between letters. So we can manipulate with these attributes through the blueprint of the actor, which is located in our scene. I also have empty message string. We need it when we will be iterating through the text we have, and as you can see, we will append each letter from our text to our empty message, so it will be printed every time we will add one letter, and the whole string will grow. Also, I have click counter and max click counter. So, for the following behavior, when we have our text printed on our screen, I need to stop it to show the whole text. So I use one click. Right after this, I have an ability to scroll through all the text to read it one more time. My controls are disabled, and To destroy the widget and proceed with the gameplay, I need to click one more time. So, click counter is 0 by default, max click counter is set to 2. Now let's take a look at our logic. First of all, event construct, we need to create listen for input action node. As you can see here, we need to provide an action name. So when we press some key, the widget will know which key is pressed, and we have the proper callback to trigger the proper function. For this, let's go to project settings, and in our input I have created the binding, its action mapping called select, and it's set to left mouse button. It's all we need. So when our mouse button is clicked, I have created the print full text custom event. So this type will trigger the following logic here. Let's continue with the flow here, then we will continue with the flow here. Then, when our widget is shown, we need to disable our input to stop our character from moving and any kind of interaction. But the ability to listen to our input is still here. Next, we need to add for each loop with delay and break our newly created macro and provide the following attributes. As for text, we need to search for get character array from string, and our text will be converted to the array of elements. Delay between letters here is for delay. The values that are coming from our blueprint or our actor on the scene are overriding this default value. Next, on loop body, we need to have each our letter and append it to our empty message. Make sure that you have the following order so your text won't be inverted, and then set empty message with the result of the appending, so our string will grow. If we don't interrupt our typewriter feature, we need to set text every frame with the result of our empty message. Also, when we have the big amount of text, we need to scroll it. So use scroll to end on the text grid, it's our scroll box, so your text will be smoothly transitioning in the proper order. So you will always see the proper text. It's like an auto scroll. Next, on complete, I check whether click counter equals 0. If it equals 0, it means that we have not pressed our key, so we need to proceed with print full text custom event, this one, to imitate that we have actually one click to release the mouse so we can scroll through our text, and then we need only one click just to destroy our widget. Because without this condition, if we don't have the interrupted text, it will be iterated through our text, and on complete we need 2 clicks instead of 1, but it looks like an artifact, so make sure to have this condition. So when we have the fully text displayed, we need only 1 click here. Whether our click counter doesn't equal 0, it means we have 1, we need to actually just show our text, the whole text, and that's all. Now, as for print full text, we need to set input game and UI, so actually we can scroll through our widget, our scroll box, when we don't have any kind of input. The game is for clickability and UI for actual encountering with our widget. It's a tricky part, but it works very well. Next, we need to show mouse cursor, so we can navigate to our widget and scroll through it. After this, click counter is increasing. Then we check whether our click counter actually less our max counter. If it's true, we are breaking our iteration. It means that we have clicked one time, we don't need to see the whole text being written at the period. We just need to show it once, and this break will stop this iterating and immediately go to the complete. Whether our click counter equals our max counter, we need to hide our mouse, enable our input so we can interact and move. Next, we need to set input mode game only. Here we have game and UI, but when we are in game mode, we need just to have the game only, because we don't have any user interfaces. Not user interfaces, user widgets. Right after this, we need to tell our player controller to destroy description widget. It's the event we created in the interaction system interface here. The reason why we tell this to our player controller, because our player controller actually creates the widget and destroys the widget. So let's go to player controller. Here you can see the implementation of creating and deleting our widget. Event add description widget. This one. Then the flow you know, create hard description widget, set it to local variable and add to viewport. When we need to destroy it, we check whether it's valid. If it's so, we remove it from parent and set as a null reference. Very simple. Also, as you can see, remove from parent triggers the event that actually triggers event destruct in our widget. We also need to send two messages, one for point of interest blueprint, and the other for interactable one. So the implementation on destroy description widget, both of these entities will trigger the. Now let's take a look at BP POI. It's our point of interest area. Here I have box collision with the following collision preset. It's the custom. Then I need to ignore everything but pawn. We need to overlap with it to have the smooth camera blend that actually will show the area that we are interested in. And camera. It's just camera component. Now let's go to the construction script here. As you can see, I have some variables here. Let's take a look at this one. It's text and it's editable. Delay between letters also editable, so I can manipulate the values of this blueprint through the actor on my scene. As you can see, collision box, message, delay, and so on. Also, I have blend in time, so when we are blending with the camera for the first time, and when we need to destroy the widget and to blend out, the second attribute, blend out time. Blend out time can be set different values, so we can have different behaviors also for the blend in time. So we can, when we have 0, it means we will immediately transition to the POI camera. If you have something that actually differs from the 0, the higher the value is, the slower the transition will be. Now let's go back to our construction script. Here I have collision box, it's the vector type. Default values are 100 and I use setBox extend. So this box is the area where, when I overlap it, the interaction will start. As for the event graph, we can select box, it's our collision, then look for on component begin overlap here. Then we need to cast to our player character to check whether it's our actual player character, not any other actors. Without this kind of checking, every actor or every component will trigger our box, so the logic will be ruined. Next, I have do once, because in my opinion the interaction with the point of interest area in narrative games should be once. When I overlap, I see the description, I see the beauty, I remember it, and then when I visit this area for the second or the third time, I don't need this kind of information. So I use do once. Then I send a message to my player controller to add the widget and provide it with the information I have. Actually, you can see that I have interactable here. It's my mistake. For this type of blueprint actor, we don't need to provide this information. So we can just leave it blank here. Also, we don't need this variable here. Please forgive me. It's very intense time I have now making these tutorials, but I enjoy it very much. Also, we have set blend target with set view target with blend on our play controller, and we have self as new view target. It's an extra object reference, and when we use set view target with blend, any actor that have camera will actually transition to this camera. Blend time, also blend function. I have linear one. For the simple point of interest, we can go with this type of function that we have smooth equal on each period of our function transition without any easing in or easing out, but you can go with another types. For this type of implementation, I think that will be enough. And here I have event destroy description widget. To have it like events, our point need in our class defaults, in our class settings, have implemented the interaction system interface. So when we fire destroy description widget from our widget on event destruct to our POI, here this event will trigger, and we need to blend out from the camera of point of interest blueprint back to our character, and with blends out time. Just like this. Actually, that's all. Now you need to drag and drop BP POI onto your scene. Next, provide it with the proper values for the attributes you have. And to make the proper camera position here, you need to select your blueprint actor. Next, expand the components, then select camera, and as you can see, I have it on the preview, so I can see the final results of my camera when I transition it. Here we can change the rotation, the position, and you can duplicate this kind of POIs as many as you like. Just be sure that they don't overlap, so you will have the proper overlap with the proper element. And you can press play, and you can have as many point of interest with any kind of messages you like. So if you like this video, please leave your feedback, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.